welcome back to Faith on Film, where we read your church library in search of the good stuff. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Nathan. In 1941, Catherine Davis wrote a little Christmas tune called Carol of the Drum, but you probably know it as The Little Drummer Boy. It was first recorded in 1951 by the Trapp Family Singers. Yes, those ones, but, the historical personages. More relevant to this video, it was later adapted into a Rankin Bass Christmas special.
In 1964, Rankin Bass Productions produced the now iconic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas short. And this led to a slew of little Christmas specials based on songs. The second of which was The Little Drummer Boy in 1968, starring Greer Garson as the narrator, and also starring the voices of Paul Frees in, basically all the roles, and Jose Ferrer and Teddy Eccles as the titular drummer boy.
It was one of their first forays into stop motion. And as such, the craft isn't really that refined. So it's easy to look at it as a little herky-jerky and kind of awkward. So if that's not really your thing, this special isn't going to be for you. But if you like stop motion, even some of the cruder stuff, stick around. You might find something you enjoy. In fact, given that the Rankin Bass specials were direct inspiration for The Nightmare Before Christmas, which in turn sparked renewed interest in stop motion, at least here in the US, it's doubtful we would have had it in its current form if not for these.
And I gotta say, personally, I love stop motion animation. I admire it a great deal. It is a very time-consuming process. So imagine for a minute that you want to have your character run its hands through its hair. You're going to start like this. You're going to take a shot. Then you're going to go like this. Take another shot. This, film a little more. A little more. A little more. Stop-motion legend Nick Park once said that on a good day, you can get maybe 3 seconds worth of film completed in a single day. So, considering that Rankin Bass was known for doing a lot of their animation for very cheap, and given how difficult stop-motion can be, it makes sense that it would be very jerky, but it's charming.
These specials might not be Coraline or Kubo, but there's a charm here. And I'm kind of a nerd about it. And the man tapped to write this one was actually the head writer for a lot of their Christmas specials, Romeo Muller. He did Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. Yes, that exists. Even as far along as the 12 Days of Christmas. Even outside of the December arena, he also covered some of their most famous stuff, including The Hobbit or The Return of the King. Guy was a staff veteran, is what I'm saying.
He has a distinct writing style when it comes to these specials. When you consider that his source material is often a song, and the songs in question don't necessarily have a lot of story to work with, he has to embellish a lot. This includes adding conflicts, supporting characters, and villains. And sometimes he makes it a little more convoluted than necessary. I'm still not sure who thought of having Rudolph go to an island of misfit toys or having him fight an abominable snow monster.
Our villain for this outing is a huckster named Ben Haramed.
And his sidekick, Ollie. Don't forget him.
I haven't forgotten him. He kidnaps the little drummer boy, named Aaron, to recruit him for his show, because there's not enough interest in their current talent. Aaron, meanwhile, has a special skill of playing his drum in such a way that animals are compelled to dance to it. And Ben Haramed sees this as an opportunity to get on easy street by having people pay for it. Ben Haramed is unfortunately designed. Okay. It's not a problem to have a Jewish character who is so preoccupied with money that he's willing to exploit a little boy. Because, this is 1st century Judea. Most of your characters are Jewish. not that surprising if you have one as a villain. Where this gets complicated is that Ben Haramed is the only one who looks like medieval or borderline Nazi Germany caricatures of Jewish people. That's not a good look, guys. And what makes it doubly unfortunate is that all of the other Jewish characters look more like ethnically Middle Eastern people, but portrayed respectfully. So it just stands out that this is the one that they said, no, that guy, give him a huge nose and make him fat. Now, I'm not going to defend this choice, because it probably shouldn't have been made in the first place. But from my stance as a doofy white guy, it was just a time in history when people didn't think about that sort of thing. And I can look past it. Don't do it again! But context.
One thing that is interesting about the way Ben Haramed is written is he doesn't actually get any comeuppance. He gets exactly what he wants. He sets out to get money, and he gets his money. This is unusual in the Rankin Bass specials. The villains usually either come around to the good side, or they fail and get their objectives. Or, in the case of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, you have both, in the form of the Winter Warlock and the Burgermeister Meisterburger. The last time we see Ben Haramed, he's greedily counting his money after he has sold Aaron's camel Joshua to the Magi after making money off of the show didn't work out. Boy, this really isn't gonna help Aaron with his misanthropy, now is it?
We learned pretty early on that Aaron hates all people. And just in case you missed it, they tell us that a couple other times. Subtlety wasn't their strong suit. But this is because Aaron's loving parents, the very same ones who gave him the drum, were murdered by a pack of thieves who had come to steal their flock of sheep. And it's implied that he hadn't had much contact with the world outside his family before that, so this is a pretty rough introduction. And as a result, he doesn't feel like he can trust anybody because they could all turn out to be monsters like that. So, the only companions he has left are his surviving animal friends, Joshua the camel, Samson the donkey, and Baba the sheep. I would like to compliment this special for not having the animals talk.
Being kidnapped and exploited by Haramed only further drives Aaron into hate. He gets through one show, but then he sees a man in the crowd who looks an awful lot like his parents' killer, and he completely loses it.
I feel like there's a Batman reference in there.
Well, he does have a painted smile on.
That would make him the Joker, not Batman.
And in case you're wondering about the painted smile, Haramed was trying to get Aaron to smile for the crowd, but he couldn't do it, so Haramed painted one on. I do find it interesting that the boy who will not smile then proceeds to sing a song called Why Can't the Animals Smile? This further illustrates the disconnect that Aaron feels from the people in the world and just how much more comfortable he is around the animals, which makes it even more heartbreaking when Haramed just callously sells his camel Joshua to the Magi. And this brings us to where we start off in the song.
Now, everything prior to this point was technically made up by Muller, but it's one of his best expansions on a story. Like, we know that Aaron had to come from somewhere before the Magi met him, but we're never told where. And in order to build up the meeting of Jesus as an extra special event, it makes sense to give him a crappy existence prior to that point. So, all in all, it's one of his better stories by virtue of its simplicity.
I find this interpretation of the Magi very interesting, right down to their designs. So when it comes to the Magi, we usually have one of two things happen. They all find the star and come out together, or they meet on the road. This special doesn't explicitly do one or the other, however, you could interpret it as the latter, where they meet separately, because each of the Magi is clearly a different nationality. And I find this interesting. We have an Asian Magus. I suspect that this puppet design isn't as controversial because there isn't really anything inherently caricature-ish about Balthazar. He more just is. And the Magi on a whole are on decently equal footing here. I mean, Gaspar ultimately gets most of the lines in the climax, but otherwise, here they are. I also appreciate the entourage that they travel with. Given how expensive and how time-consuming stop motion really is, I would have completely understood if Rankin Bass just went for the traditional 3 guys with camels crossing the desert. But no, they actually decided to add in soldiers, and quite a few, making it a full royal caravan. And I appreciate this.
So Aaron follows the star in an attempt to catch up with the Magi and get his camel back. And that leads us to Bethlehem. And naturally, that is where they find the stable. However, on the way to the stable, Baba gets run over by a soldier in a chariot. In his dismay, Aaron does the thing that most children in crisis do. Turn to the nearest adult. However, the only adults that he knows are the Magi, so he goes up to Gaspar and asks for help, and Gaspar says he can't do anything. However, that baby over there in the manger might. Aaron says, I do not understand. And Gaspar says, it is not necessary that you understand. At first, I thought this was just a cop-out on the part of the writers, or perhaps a bad reflection on religion in general. Just believe, and it doesn't matter if you understand what you're believing. Just do it anyway. And I thought about it in context. Gaspar's not asking Aaron to sign any doctrinal statements. He's just saying, go talk to this baby. And trying to explain theology in that situation would be...
But I do not understand.
It's very simple. Redemption history, or Heilsgeschichte in German, is divided up into several dispensations in which God's interaction with humanity follows several different rules. The first is the Edenic dispensation, in which Adam and Eve... And now we're entering what's known as the dispensation of the Gentilic Church, which was a parenthesis in the plan that was not foreseen by any of the Hebraic...
Mr. Wiseman, can you heal my sheep or not?
Yes.
So, Aaron approaches the manger. I do like how he doesn't start drumming right away. He just kneels and takes it all in for a minute. And compliment to the puppeteers, these puppets have very expressive eyes, and I love it. If you look really closely, you'll actually notice that when he does start drumming, the sticks actually move in a rum-pum-pum-pum pattern.
One thing to take note of here is that the moral has shifted a little bit. In the song, it was just, any gift you bring is good enough as long as it comes from your heart. Whereas in the animated special, it becomes more of Aaron learning to see the good in humanity again. That's not a bad change. I'm just trying to do my due diligence in making you aware of it.
So would that make Jesus kind of a plot device?
Kind of? He is being used by Aaron as a means to an end, but I don't know. The encounter makes him change his whole perspective so that healing Baba isn't even his primary goal anymore. I think it would be apt to compare this to Ben-Hur, where much the same thing happens, and that's literally subtitled A Tale of the Christ.
I think a good way to gauge whether this works or not is, does this bring Aaron's character arc to a close in a satisfactory way?
Okay.
Yay! It turns out Baba has been healed, and Aaron realizes that the hate he has carried there was wrong. So, why does he come to this conclusion? I think, from Aaron's perspective, this is the first time in a long time that someone has done something genuinely kind for him and didn't really try to exploit him or get something out of him.
Because it's a baby. I mean, what's a baby gonna do to him? And it just reminds him of the pureness that people once had.
Aaron just played a simple tune for him, and that person returned that kind gesture with a kind gesture. So for the first time since his parents' murder, Aaron can really forgive. Ultimately, that is what this special is about. Forgiveness. And you know what? That's genuinely refreshing.
A lot of holiday stories are about finding the mood, and that can get kind of tiring after a while. I mean, heck, we just reviewed one. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is arguably this, and that's one of the good ones. So, it's just interesting to see Rankin Bass, of all people, tackle something like the world is cruel, but carrying hate around in your heart only hurts you. And the fact that they don't shy away from saying that the world is indifferent toward you, they don't like take it back afterwards, that kind of inherently makes this one of their more mature Christmas specials.
This might not be the most iconic of the Rankin Bass specials, but it might be one of their best. From a storytelling perspective, it really doesn't do that much wrong. There really isn't any major padding, and it tackles heavier themes, but it does it in a mature enough way that doesn't really talk down to its target audience, and it takes some real chances. It's also considerably more grounded, and from a cinematography perspective, there are some genuinely beautiful shots in this one, especially when we get to the nativity. And the titular song is sung by the Vienna Boys Choir, which is the perfect choice. And rather than having the choir sing the whole song as the credits roll, which is sometimes the tradition, the first verse plays during the opening credits, and then the second verse through the rest of the song appears again as the climax in sort of a omnipotent Greek choir sort of way. And it's beautiful.
For all these reasons, I think I'm gonna give it a good enough. What works about it really works. It's just a little ahead of its time in some areas, not necessarily in a good way. I mean, okay, I can personally look past the animators not being on top of their craft. I know others can't. But maybe don't design Ben Haramed that way? That'd be cool.
I'm going to go a little bit higher with this one and give it a satisfactory. I like how refined the storytelling portion of this short is. We go from point A to point B to point C, really without any bunny trails or distractions. And for this writer, that's amazing. Good job, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for Faith on Film. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Stephanie. Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh, Nathan?
What? I've been kissed by a dog. I have dog germs. Get some hot water. Get some disinfectant. Get some iodine.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
So sorry.
46?
64.
60. Oh, wow.
Just a little early.
I'm not even dyscalculic. I don't know why that got transposed. Yeah, you know, they got done with World War II and were like, you know what we should do? Rudolph. Animated Rudolph.
Though Max Fleischer did do Rudolph in the 40s, didn't he?
Yes. I don't remember precisely when.
Okay,
It was also a lot shorter.
very true. Anyway, Bunny Trail.
He is being used by Aaron as an ends to a means,
Isn't it means doing it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
After he finishes playing, it turns out Baba is okay.
Oh, yeah. That would be important.
I should probably mention that.
Veggie Tales.
Yeah. You know, there's something like a crappy remake to make you appreciate the original even more.
You're right. I think that's why I've come back to the Rankin Bass Hobbit and gone, yes, I like this.
Gauge whether this works or not is, does it conclude... That was probably my mother.
Hi, Stephanie's mom. Comprendo. I'll show you no comprendo.
Mom, Dad, look over here!
I don't understand that joke.
Me neither.
It's like he's dressed up in a poncho, so they must be at Disneyland?
I don't know. Anyway.
VeggieTales got weird sometimes.
Now it is on camera.
Bob got run over by a soldier on his way through Bethlehem Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Jesus, but as for me and Gaspar, we believe.
Proceed.
Where are we?